Welcome, welcome. I'm Sherry Kubinick. I'm a relationship coach as well as a best-selling author. So I wrote When Marriage Needs a Miracle. Many of you may have joined my list that way. And then, of course, I'm also the creator of Relationships by Design. And we'll talk a little bit about that and what that is later. But this presentation, this class, is specifically on how to get your power back in midlife. So we are just going to jump right into it. What is power? And I wanted to start with this because I think that when we're talking about what power is, that's the first question a lot of people have. But this is certainly one that we get a lot. Like people will say, well, what does that even mean when you talk about stepping into your power or losing your power for that matter? And a lot of times, another thing people will talk about is losing themselves in a relationship. This, when we talk about power in this sense, is very much all wrapped up in that as well when you feel like you've lost yourself. So first, what is power? It's not about control or dominating or needing somebody else to change. In fact, when we need to control, or maybe you have a partner that tries to control you, usually people who are looking for control, it's because they've actually stepped out of their power where they're not living their life from a powerful place. So they're trying to gain power through others. What is power? It's definitely not about pretending that you're fine or that everything's fine when you're not. That's one of the worst things that has come out of a lot of this stuff where we have people on social media who are kind of almost teaching this idea of pretend everything's fine. It's like the act as if. I believe in the concept of act as if, but there's a really big difference between acting as if and trying to create a life you love. There's a difference between that and just pretending that everything's fine and that you don't have any problems, okay? Power is the ability to create the life that you want, including your relationship. But more importantly, it's the ability to do that no matter what is happening around you. So what does that look like? It looks like a lot of clarity, knowing what you want and what you're no longer going to tolerate. It's about the ability to emotionally regulate yourself, so to stay centered and respond as the person you want to be. We've all been in that place where maybe there's an argument with your partner or something happens with your kids and you go to bed that night feeling like, oh, I don't know that I handled that very well. Or maybe it's weeks later, you think, oh, if I hadn't gotten so angry, or I don't know how to not get defensive when my partner's getting upset with me, or whatever that looks like. Power is really the ability to respond in the way that you want to respond, in a way that is coming from truth. That's what power is. It's also energetic alignment. So it's living from what is true, not from your triggers. And when you live from that place of truth, not from your triggers, you then attract to you people and experiences that matches that self-worth. Power is choice. So it's responding from intention, not reacting, kind of very closely related to the emotional regulation piece. And it's speaking from what I call your spirit self. So any of my clients on here will have heard me talk a lot about your spirit self. And that's that part of you that is the most powerful. So when you're in your power, you're instead of reacting from a hurt part of you, instead of, in my case, 17-year-old Sherry showing up and taking over, or, 6-year-old Sherry, or whoever it happens to be that day, that hasn't healed. When you're responding with power, it's responding from your spirit self, from that part of you that's healed and knows everything's okay. And power also looks like freedom, because it's letting go of what you can't control and reclaiming what you can control. So that's your energy, your actions, and your future. Those are the only things you can really control. When you're in your power, you don't need something outside of you, such as your relationship or your bank account, to be a certain way in order for you to be okay. It's the moment that things feel really clear to you. It's when you're not responding from a sense of lack or from feeling like you need to chase someone or something. When you're in that place, when you're in your power, you're allowing the universe to take over. So essentially, you're allowing the guidance that's always there to step in and help you out. And the problem is, for most of us, we have spent so much of our life in a place where we've been hustling, grinding, just trying to make things work, trying to hold it all together. I used to say that my life always felt like a vase that had been shattered and broken, and then I pieced it back together, and then I was going through life just trying to hold things together still. When you're able to sort of surrender, what happens is your lens changes, and all of the solutions, all of the opportunities are now visible to you, because that hustle and grind and that lack and scarcity that you're living based on is actually blocking all of the opportunities and all of the answers from flowing more easily to you. Here's a question I'm going to ask you. And I always like to use money examples because people can resonate with money examples often a little bit better than they can with relationship examples. And, who doesn't want more money? The question I have for you is, if you had all of the money that you could want, what would you do? What would you get? What would you have? Could be lots of trips. It could be a sense of financial freedom. It could be a sense of security. Could be a new vehicle, a new house. What would it be for you? A bit more freedom, okay? All of the above plus peace and harmony, yeah. Time freedom, yes, good one. Peace, vehicles, travel, perhaps retire or work part-time, yeah, good one. So for any of you who thought of an answer, I want you, sense of peace and freedom to do anything, yeah. So now I want to ask you the question, so with time freedom, or with vehicles, travel, retirement, what would that give you? Karen says not worrying as much. Financial peace, ease, yeah. This was a trick question, of course, because what this does is it makes my point that if you need the money to have peace within yourself, if you need the money to have peace of mind or ease or less worry or freedom, you've given all your power over to money. You've basically just made the statement that money is my source of peace. Money is my source of ease, of not worrying, which is really peace. My money is my source of freedom. What that says is that you innately believe that you're not the source of that. And that's simply not true. You are your source of peace and ease and less worrying. Money's not the answer. Now I want you to take this same concept and apply it to your relationship. So I could ask the same question: if your relationship was absolutely perfect and your partner absolutely adored you every minute of every day, or maybe they left you alone more if that's what you want, whatever it happens to be for you. If your relationship was exactly how you dreamed it should be, what would that give you? And you're going to have some of those same answers, only relationship related, right? So it gives me a sense of security. It gives me a sense of peace. I don't have to worry. But it's the same thing, happiness, yeah. But it's the same thing. You're saying that my relationship is my source of happiness. So you've given all your power away. My relationship is my source of peace. So you've given all your power away. When you step into your power, you start to recognize, and when you step into aligning with that spirit side of you that always has the right guidance, that's always trying to take you in the right direction in your life, that's always helping you to create, if you would just let her in and take the wheel. When you step into that, what you realize is that, oh, when I step into my joy, then my relationship becomes more joyful. When I recognize how secure I am, then money no longer has the power to make me more secure. Now, what you think is going to happen is you think, oh, you're just trying to trick me to be happy, Sherry. Sneaky. But that's actually not even the case. What I'm saying is that when you become happy, your relationships get better. When you recognize your security, you're guided, your actions, your behaviors represent and are coming from a place of security. So people who have financial security, they have that because they've made decisions as a financially secure person. The security came, then the actions, then the results. What you're doing is you're trying to create something in order to give you the emotion. I'm saying find the emotion and then you will create what you want. Your power equals your vibration. So when we talk about, and when you hear me talk about your high vibe or low vibe, that's all this is, right? We hear about that all the time, like, oh, these low vibe people are high vibe people. What they really are people who are in their power or less in their power. It's a spectrum. High vibe, you have more power to create what you want. Low vibe is about perpetuating your problems. If you have a problem that continues on, so you've got toxic relationship patterns, for example, there is something about you that's matching that. And you're perpetuating that in your life. And when you start to figure out that you have the power to shift that, that's when everything in your life changes. And the same thing applies when you're looking at your finances, which is why I always use both types of examples. Survival mode, which is when you're not in your power, you're just trying to survive. That's when your emotions are dysregulated. You've got increased stress hormones. You've got a narrowed focus. So it's that idea that you're looking at life through this lens instead of removing those blinders and being able to see life and everything and all the opportunities and solutions and ideas that are available to you. And there's emotional exhaustion because it's hard to live for a long time in survival mode. And many of you have probably experienced that. I certainly have. When you're in survival mode, there's a lot of stress and overwhelm. Your confidence takes a major hit. There's conflict in your relationship. There's high cortisol levels, which especially as we enter midlife and perimenopause and menopause and beyond, that cortisol stuff makes such a difference in terms of our ability to regulate ourselves, but also just to maintain our weight and balance our hormones and all of those sorts of things. We have low energy when we're in survival mode because energy is real. And when you're in survival mode, all of your energy is being sucked out of you. And it's what keeps you feeling stuck. Because when you're in survival mode, you don't feel like you can make the change. You don't feel like you've got the power to create the changes that you want in your life. When you're in this place, things seem to get worse instead of getting better with age. And I'm here to tell you, life should get better with age, not worse. And I promise you, you can make that happen. If you have this belief system, which many women do, unfortunately, that it's just like, well, it's just how it happens as you get old, right? That's just a lie that's been fed to many of us. And I'm sure that all of you know at least one person whose life continues to improve with age. When you're in a thriving state or a powerful state, it looks like emotional balance. It looks like physical well-being, right? So people who are in that powerful state of living as women, we get to have our bodies be, do, and look how we want it to look because we know that we can create that because we have the energy to do what we want and face life on our own terms. Whether it's exercise that we need more of, more rest and relaxation that we need more of, but we take care of ourselves. Sometimes we've got limitations around that, and that's just reality, but we take care of ourselves within those limitations. We have mental clarity and we have purpose and fulfillment, which is another huge thing that happens when you step into your power. You start to step into that place where you feel like you look forward to life. It's Joe Dispenza who uses the example of little kids when they wake up in the summer and they get to go to camp and they wake up in the morning so excited that they get to go to camp that day. And the reason that they're excited is because they're really expecting something good to happen at camp, which is so funny because they don't know that something good's going to happen at camp. That's just their expectation. But somehow, as our life moves forward and as certain things kind of knock us down and destroy our confidence, we get to a point where it feels almost normal to wake up in the morning and not look forward to the day ahead. And I'm here to tell you that's not the way that it should be. You should look forward to the day ahead, but you should look forward to the year ahead, the next decade of your life, the next 4 decades of your life, whatever it happens to be. When you're standing in your power in that thriving place, there's peace and happiness, self-assurance, confidence, love, balance. You're energetic. So life gets better and better, and you look forward to the future. Those are the 2 big differences. There is a process that I wanted to walk you guys through in terms of how you can actually do some things on your own that will help you step into that place of power when you need to, or when you're realizing that that's not where you are. First, pause the pattern. And what this is really about is becoming aware of when you're not in your power. So the fact that you're even here in this session means you deserve a pat on the back, because what that means is you're going, you know what, I think this might be a problem for me. And it's something that I would like to change. I want to feel better. I want things in my life to change in a way. And I feel like if I just learn some stuff, I have the power to do that. So the fact that you're even here means you're on step 1 or beyond, in the sense that you're trying to do what it takes to pause that pattern. The initial goal for you is to interrupt an automatic response, that spiral of overthinking, the urge to fix or prove something to people or to people please, right? It's noticing when your emotions or an emotional charge is taking over how you show up in your relationship or in your finances or any area of your life. The practice then is to notice when you're in survival mode, when you've got that tight chest, when you're shutting down, and to simply pause and recognize that for yourself. And if that's all you can do right now, that's a win. For a lot of this stuff, it feels like it's never enough, but recognize it's the lack of power, it's that ego voice that's saying it's not enough. I want you to flip that on its head. And when you're able to stop yourself or even notice afterwards, oh, I did that. And to notice and think, well, that's a win that I'm at least noticing. Because you will get to a place of change and shifting, but it starts here. So that's really the first act of stepping into it. Second thing is, take your energy off the problem. And so if there's anything I want you to, I always say tattoo on your hand, but if there's anything that I want you to take away from this session, it's this, that problems only exist when we really give our energy to them. And what we think is that if I focus on this, if I analyze it, try to fix it, try to figure out how this happened, that somehow that's going to change something for us. But what we don't realize is that we actually hold ourselves in the energy of the problem, and by doing so, block the solutions and the opportunities for change that is surrounding us. Think of it this way. Again, I'll use a financial example. If you have credit card debt and you'd really like to get your credit card paid off, and you're constantly saying to yourself, I'm so broke, I don't have enough money, I can't go on this trip, I have all this debt, I have to put all my money on my credit cards. That keeps you out of your power. Now, so does that mean, oh, just ignore the credit card debt? It's fine. No, it does not mean that. What it means is focus on building wealth. Take your energy off the problem of the debt. Set your intention on building wealth, building what you want, creating the life you want. That doesn't mean you don't pay off the debt, but it means that you You see, as each payment goes on the debt, you see it as that you're building more wealth. You're getting closer and closer to building wealth. So your focus has shifted. When you all of a sudden focus, just even think about those two things. Think about, I'm paying my debt, which is still not super negative, but still kind of negative. Still the focus is on the debt versus I'm building wealth. Even that small shift will make a huge difference in what your finances look like a year from now. If in your relationship, it feels like we're totally disconnected. He never talks to me. He never shares anything with me. I hear this all the time from my clients. If your focus is on that and your husband comes home and ignores you, goes and showers, goes and sits in front of the TV and doesn't say a word, you're going to see that as another example of why you're so disconnected. And then you'll behave from that place. You'll behave from a place of hurt. You'll behave from a place of focus on the disconnect. And you might get resentful. You might think, fine, I'm going to the other room to watch a different television, whatever it might be. Whereas if you see that happen, the exact same scenario happens, but instead of focusing on we're so disconnected, you focus on the fact that, well, we've been married for 32 years and we're very comfortable. It makes it a lot easier then to walk into the living room or wherever he is and say, hey, how was work? Maybe plant a kiss on the cheek, or it's about the feeling that you have and how you deal with the relationship. There's a clarity that comes, or maybe your partner really is just being a jerk. But you actually can't tell if your focus is always on the problem. You will never find a solution when your frequency and your focus is only on the problem. Problems only exist when you give your energy to them. In order for them to go away, you have to take your energy and your focus off the problem. The practice would be using your breath, body, or awareness. We've got lots of different meditations for this type of stuff in Relationships by Design. And you ask, what part of me is running this moment? My fear or my truth? My fear or my spirit self? What is guiding me? Because if the past is guiding you, your future is going to look like your past. That's the rule. The only way your future looks different is if you recognize when it's showing up and when it's guiding you. So this is why it's so important to go through and understand and process the trauma, the issues, the problems from your past. We don't focus on our problems from the past to put our focus there. We focus on them only to understand the energy that they're bringing into today. So if you had an abusive father, or a difficult relationship with your mother, or some sort of a trauma when you were a child or in your 20s or whatever it might be, the energy of that can be stuck in your life and it can be guiding you. I was talking to a beautiful woman yesterday who was talking about her upbringing as a strong Irish Catholic family and everything that meant for her. What was interesting is then she was talking about how she didn't realize until this call how much of that was making her feel guilty for the success that she had. And I'll tell you, if you feel guilty for your success, you're going to block it. Because every time she went home to see her family, they would almost kind of shame her or be like, oh, you're rich now, and made her feel like she was really different. And then she felt guilty. And this was surprisingly driving a lot of the issues that she was creating or is creating in her relationship. And soon I can see will be issues created in her finances. I can't even tell you the number of women I talk to who have a similar story to that. And part of their divorce process, part of what causes them actually to get to that point of divorce, if they've been successful or if their partner and them together have been successful in life, part of what actually energetically gets you to a point of divorce is feeling like things are too good. Things are too easy for us. And these aren't conscious feelings. These are subconscious beliefs that live below the surface. And as I said in step one, until you start to understand and become aware of them and aware of those patterns, you can't uncover what it is that's creating them. That's why it's so important. Otherwise, you keep perpetuating the same problems, which, no judgment, it's exactly what I did in my life. Step three is to realign your inner state. So that means, as Joe Dispenza says, you can't wait for your life to change to feel better. You have to feel better so that your life can change. So instead of focusing on what's missing, find the emotion of the energy that you want. So whether that's peace, confidence, worthiness, joy, you need to find what's missing within you, become your own source of that, and then watch as your partner shows up differently for you, or your children show up differently for you. So the question you ask yourself is, what feeling am I chasing? And can I offer just even a bit of that, a drop of that to myself without necessarily getting it from the person that I'm looking for it from? And again, I know it feels like, okay, but now I'm never going to get it from my partner. But what's so interesting is you will. I see it happen all of the time. Or you get to a point where you're so confident that you're like, you know what? I'm actually kind of done with this situation and I'm moving on. But either way, you're doing it from a place where you're not living in fear. So you're not staying because you're scared to go, and you're not leaving because you're scared things aren't going to get better. Either of those are terrible options. Because until you've figured this stuff out, if you take either of those options, chances are you're taking those problems into your future. In step three, I want you to visualize yourself as already there, already loved, and already able to have what you want. And then in the next phase is when you show up as that person. So this is really about finding that spirit self, tuning into her, and changing the way you look at things. As Wayne Dyer says, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. In any given situation, you can pause and ask yourself, how would my spirit self see this? How would a powerful version of me see this? And from that place, you are no longer acting from a subconscious place. You're not behaving from that place, which is based on the past. You're not reacting from fear. Instead, you're creating your life from a place of power. I mean, this is manifesting 101. When people talk about manifesting, they think, okay, I'm just going to like sit and meditate and visualize my future. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is a part of it. But the reason that you're doing that is that so that you can become the person who lives in that future. If you stay this person who's being led with all the hurts from the past, who doesn't think that she's the source of creating this life that she wants, then the future is not going to look any different, no matter how much you visualize it. What you have to visualize is a different version of you, the version of you who's confident, who creates exactly what she wants. You know those people, right? You know those women who you look at and you think, you know, she's really successful, or her partner seems to adore her. They have so much fun together. She has so much joy in her life. Where does she get all her energy? You see those people. So when you're visualizing the future you want, you also have to visualize who you needed to be to create it. And she's there. She's just ready for you to peel away all the crap that's been piled on top of her for so many years so that she can take over again. This is what we call inspired action. And again, I have inspired in quotes because the word inspired means in spirit. It's asking yourself, what would the version of me who trusts herself do next? So if it's money stuff, how would a wealthy woman show up? When a wealthy woman gets her bills, how does she feel? Does she leave them set aside and ignore them for a month? Or does she pick them up, feel completely fine, neutral, no emotions around them, and pay them? Same thing with her credit card. How would a woman who knows that she's lovable show up in a relationship? Would she tolerate being yelled at, treated terribly? I'll tell you, she wouldn't. She doesn't show up that way. We really do teach people how to treat us. How would the most confident version of you show up? Then you do that. You want to step into being her. And even if it's just one small, brave shift, it's going to make a difference, and you will notice the difference, especially if you're open to noticing the differences. It's funny when clients come on to our relationship by design calls, often they'll say, oh, this happened. My husband came home and brought me flowers. He hasn't done that for 20 years. Or I finally addressed this thing with my partner that I was so scared to talk to her about. Any of those sorts of things. And by the way, she didn't freak out like I thought she was going to do. So when you start to show up as a different version of you, the people around you respond to that version of you. It's the only way to make a change in your relationship. 5, let go and allow. The moment that you surrender and trust is really the moment that you open yourself up to those miracles that we talk about. Because as long as you are trying to control based on the past version of you who thinks she's got things under control, as long as you're doing that, you're blocking all of the other ideas that you're not open to. It's like there is an usher standing at the end of your bed with a tray, and you wake up in the morning and the usher is saying to you, hey, Marlene, come right this way and I'll show you where everything you want is. And we get out of bed and put our feet on the floor and go, no, I'm busy. I've got so much stuff to do today. Leave me alone. And so then the usher, it's like a GPS system, rerouting. Okay, well, how about now? No, I'm busy. I've got this, I'm doing this. I can't do that. We block all of our internal guidance instead of trying to tune into it. Your work is to tune into that guidance instead of ignore it. It's to ignore the parts of you that are trying to guide you and tune into that your power, which is really trying to take you in the right direction. And by the way, your power brought you here today. So this is a good first step. Always think about that too, because this is the part of dissolving problems that people get really confused about. Is it doesn't mean that you don't have to deal with problems. It means that you deal with them from an inspired place. It means you're not worried about it. It's like knowing, okay, I have this problem, but then going, it's not really a problem because I'll figure it out. Hence, it's not a problem. The solution is coming to me. I'm just tuning into that and following my guidance. My guidance is showing me what to do. If someone has a medical issue, and this is where social media and all that stuff is so damaging, because then you hear of people who are like, no, I just decided I was going to meditate on my whatever problem it is, medical problem. And yes, 100% meditate, pray. I believe entirely in the power of that. But the power of prayer and meditation lies in the fact that it helps you tune into your guidance system, and your guidance system will show you the right freaking doctor to go to. Your guidance system shows you also when to, check your husband's phone. That's another one that I see all the time. People are like, yeah, it was so weird. All of a sudden I, looked at his phone and I never look at it. Yeah, that's also clarity. It's not always guiding you to butterflies and rainbows. Sometimes it's guiding you to the truth that you need to know. And then if you keep listening, it will guide you to a better place. so that you're living in power and happiness and creating what you want in your life. So it's not about forcing outcomes. It's about trusting that your energy is creating behind the scenes for you. It's drawing, if you have a good energy, you're drawing to you good things. If you're standing in that trust, the universe has free range to send you what you want. So the practice is to let go of needing your partner to validate you, you're needing your partner to agree with you, or for them to change. Let them be on their journey and remove your responsibility for how they're showing up and focus on your journey and see where that's going to take you. And what happens then is you decide and you focus on that vision for your own life and creating that life, and then let how that happens for you unfold, because the universe has way more power. It makes the sun rise and set. It can figure stuff out for you if you let it. So your power isn't lost, it's buried. It's buried under this mountain of old patterns and false beliefs and false lessons that you've learned over time. And every time you pause and you return to yourself, you return to that spirit self, and you choose to try to align with the confident version of you, and you remember who you really are, you are stepping into your power. And that's not always an easy road, because a lot of that false beliefs, false lessons feel so much a part of you that you don't even notice it's there. That's why it's about peeling away those layers. Because every time you peel one thing, you think, oh, good, that's done. And then, no, something else comes up. And it's like, oh, this was here too. This has also been blocking me. This has also been holding me back. But that is life. That is how life gets better and better. Because as each layer falls away, you gain more power and you head closer to creating exactly what you want. Carmi, I can't see the chat. Is there anything in the chat or any comments?
Yeah, there are a few questions. So the first question was relating back to the survival mode and the thriving. She asked if there is like an in-between ground. Is it always just one or the other, or is there a middle ground?
I definitely think there's an in-between ground. I think that it's like everything, it's a spectrum. Anything around mental wellness, anything about spiritual wellness, it's always a spectrum. You can be really, really, really just vibrating high and energetic and feeling great about life, and everything's just ticking along great, right? That's one end of the spectrum. And the other end is where you can barely get out of bed, because it feels like there is just nothing you can do that's going to give you what you need or create any joy in your life. And then, of course, there's everything in between. And we feel that way, we can feel that way within our relationship. But, when we look at prosperity as a whole, prosperity comes down to obviously the abundance side of it, not just money, but just abundance of love and friendship and family and all of those things. And it's also your relationship, it's also your finances, right? So all of these things impact where you are on that scale, how you see them. But what's important to recognize as well, and what we talk about so much in the program, is that when one area is dragging you down, it's nearly impossible for it not to have a ripple effect on the other areas. And we see this in relationships all the time, obviously, but if you're having, you could be going along fine in your relationship and happy, and then all of a sudden there's a big financial problem. And if you guys don't know how to come together and deal with that together, and you start blaming each other or taking it out on each other, well, now your relationship has been hit by your financial problem. And then what can also happen is that if your relationship, and I found this, if your relationship drags you down so much and you don't have the skills and abilities to stand in your power in terms of how you come out of that, it also affects your career. Because raise your hand if you stay up till 3 a.m. fighting and then you show up as your best self at work the next day. Well, no, that's not what happens. You show up and you dial it in until noon or 1. That's life, especially for women. It's interesting how men seem to be able to compartmentalize that a little bit differently than women do. But women with our relationships, it can really drag us down. Now, have that go on for a year or two or 10, and imagine then the impact that that has had on your life. I watch women come into this program who have been considering divorce for 10 years. And so imagine what impact that has on them from a career standpoint, from a financial standpoint, from a health standpoint. We can't separate pieces of our lives and act as though it's not impacting us. And probably even more importantly, and one of the things I love most about this work is also watching how that impacts your kids, little kids and grown kids. And when you change it around, it also impacts that. So these generational issues that we bring, maybe some of the stuff, I know myself, some of the stuff that I've struggled with, I got it from my mama. And that's fine. That's not blame. That's just life. It's evolution. And as we're bringing those things forward, if we don't process them, deal with them, and figure out what parts of them to keep and what parts not to pass on, then of course we end up subconsciously passing on that stuff to our families, to our daughters, our sons, whatever it might be.
I have one more question in the chat. Are the blockages mainly from unhealed versions of yourself?
The short answer I would say is yes. The blockages are parts of you that are showing up and false beliefs that hold you in a place of limitation. Now, what's I think important to note and or sort of caveat around that is sometimes our false beliefs didn't come from harm. They didn't come from hurt. One of the stories that always come to mind for me is when I was a little girl and I won a 4-H public speaking contest. And I remember really clearly, I think I write about this in my book. I remember really clearly getting into the back of the car and it was cold out and dark. And my dad turned around and said to me, "Oh, Sherry, I'm just so proud of you." So that wasn't him harming me, right? There was nothing wrong with my dad telling I think I was 7 or 8 years old, that he was so proud of me. That's a loving thing for a father to do. And it also taught me that the more I achieve, the more love I get. Enter hypervigilant Sherry. That's why with that question, are they the unhealed parts of you? Did that part of me need healing? Or is that just a belief that was passed on to me that I'm sure my dad also had from his parents? And it's like a lot of our beliefs around hard work and hustle, and even as moms, keep your house clean, keep your kids dressed perfectly, keep all of the things. Some of that stuff that we learned did serve us well for a time, but it also limits us because it removes our power. Because somehow I never learned from a hypervigilant standpoint, what that really was about is not knowing that I had innate value. So I continued then for a good portion of my life to chase a reward, chase, I was never competitive, but chase achievement, no matter what the cost. I used to, in my 20s and 30s, I remember being like, it feels like, and I felt again, because I was completely out of my power. I remember saying, it feels like everything just requires me getting less sleep. But instead of realizing I had a choice and maybe I just could get more sleep, I just got less sleep all the time. Every time something else came up, I would just get less sleep because then I could make sure it was all done. That's really about innate value. And that's also about power. Any other questions in the chat?
Clarity around the comment you made about someone quickly getting the urge to go through their partner's phone. She's wondering if she's questioning, isn't that just a lack of trust? or is she maybe misunderstanding what you said about that? So could you reiterate a little bit about that?
Yeah, that is a great question. And you're right. It can be a lack of trust. You'll know based on the energy that it feels like. So I've had like, so for example, I had a great client. She was saying one day her phone rang and she says, I never answer my phone during the day at work if it's personal, like on my cell phone. She said, but for whatever reason, I just did. So again, whenever there's the for whatever reason, I don't know why I did that, when it like leads to something else. So she answers her phone and it was her friend saying, I just saw, and it was her husband, out in a vehicle with this other woman. So when she answered that phone call, that's just guidance. When it feels like, oh, that's a coincidence that turned into something. And it's the same thing. I've had women who will say that about picking up their husband's phone, where they'll be like, I never, ever, ever in my life have looked at his phone. And I just happened to pick it up off the kitchen counter one day. And there was this text. Now, if there is a trust issue and you're constantly checking your husband's phone, well, yeah, that's a trust issue. That's a totally different thing than guidance. And you know what the difference is. You know when it feels like it just happened and it came from a place of guidance, or knowing that, no, I'm obsessing over my husband's phone because we've had an infidelity issue or what have you. So in order for you to create the relationship you want, you need to create space for it. And that's really what stepping into your power does for you. And by the way, I always want to say this is never about saving every relationship. Some relationships need to end. And sometimes that is coming from a place of power. So when I say stepping into or creating a relationship you want, I don't always mean the relationship you're currently in. Sometimes it means a relationship with yourself that you want. Sometimes it means a relationship 5 years down the road. But regardless, if you're going to leave or you're going to stay, you need to create space for that power to guide you so that you're making the right decision, so that you're not going to have regret around how things ended, or the fact that 5 years from now you've stayed and it hasn't gotten any better. And it also comes down to releasing those parts of you that have been a part of perpetuating or creating the parts of your life that are not working. And those of you who are my clients know exactly what that means. You get to know those parts of you. You get to know that 7, 8-year-old who was happy that she won the public speaking contest. And you realize, oh, she's showing up again, damn it, and leading my decision making. But until you get to know all of those parts, all the good parts, the bad parts, the parts you wish would stay, the parts that you want to go, getting to know that is, and unpeeling those and understanding those is what helps you to continue to elevate your relationship and every other area of your life. And as you do that, as you step into being her, you will see a difference in how your partner treats you if you're currently in a relationship. This is Bree. I always like to share some success stories, because I know sometimes with this stuff, it feels like, oh, this can't work for me. And so this is Bree Stevens from California. Love her. She says, when I started working with Sherry, I was a hot mess. Her words, not mine. My marriage was in trouble. I had no confidence. I felt like it was affecting my parenting. I can't even put into words how working with Sherry has changed me. It changed how I think and how I see myself. My relationship is healthier now, but more importantly, it's my confidence that's really grown. If you have the opportunity to work with her, just do it. Best thing I ever did. Here's Lisa, another one. She is from Toronto in Canada. So she says, our marriage had progressively been breaking down over a 10-year period. We'd been married for almost 30 years. We stopped doing things together, almost were avoiding each other. I was seriously considering leaving the marriage, as trying to talk about our problems always ended in an argument, which, by the way, most of the time, if you try to talk about your problems, it's going to end in an argument, because talking about your problems is not a good idea. You want to be addressing that stuff and coming at that from a place of power, which means really focusing your energy more towards creating solutions. She said, it's been an 18-month journey, but we're in the best place we've been in over 10 years. We're on a path of positive growth, doing many more things together and enjoying our time together. I loved working with Lisa. And Lisa actually was one, I've had this happen lots of times, but she was one where I'm not sure. I think at the beginning, her husband was kind of like, what did you sign up for? And then he ended up emailing me and thanking me because of the differences that he saw in her and the way that she was just standing in strength, which basically he was like, yeah, like this is no BS. I had to smarten up or my wife was going to leave me. Then there's Tamara from BC. She said, I reached out to Sherry because my hubby and I were having issues with crossing boundaries and communication. I felt at a loss. I've been married for 34 years and I wasn't sure if it was over or if it was fixable. With Sherry, I learned so much about working on myself and taking care of me. It was a process, but my husband and I are back on track and I'm feeling the love again. So that's nice. And all three of these examples happen to be women whose marriages were saved. But I always have to say, I have other examples that are also wins of women who were like, no, my husband started fighting for me. And I was like, no, too little, too late. I'm out of here. I'm not doing this anymore because you're not treating me the way I want to be treated. And that's a win too, huge win. If you live based on past programming, you're going to keep recreating your past. It's just the way it goes. Of course, if you're struggling and you want to make the shifts that you want to make so that you feel confident, you feel excited about your future again, Relationships by Design, the program really will help you get there. It's that concept of you teach people how to treat you. When you teach them that from a more powerful place, it creates huge changes in how you show up, but then in how they show up. And it has a huge impact on all areas of your life. This is another bonus 30-day program. It goes for $697. It's also free for people who join Relationships by Design right now. I love these comments. Become happy and happiness follows you. Monica says that was great. Makes sense. Good. Thanks for being here.
If you felt like you've lost your power in your relationship or another area of your life and you're ready to get it back so you can begin creating a future that you can look forward to, click the link below and book a free insight session. In it, we'll get clear on what's been holding you back, what you want life to look like, and exactly how to move forward with confidence and clarity. Go to sherrykubnick.com, book the free session, and I can't wait to meet you.